Okay, guys. All right, guys. This is everything I think I know about the pyramid. Jay Anderson released a video, and it's got a lot of information in it, and it's pretty hard to sort through. So I've taken some clips, and we're going to go over how the pyramid is an electrical power plant and exactly what's going on here. So if you're a free thinker, before we get started, hit the like button, subscribe, and let's let the show begin. So the first thing is ringing rocks. So ringing rocks are a very important piece of this design. You need ringing rocks, you need rocks that are inert and don't move, and then you need rocks that glow. Okay, so we're going to go over these things and I'll try to tie it together at the end. So first, let's take a look at ringing rocks. What do I mean by ringing rocks? I watched Jay's content for the last 3 hours and I have searched for the clip where he is knocking on the rocks, and I swear it's in there somewhere, but I couldn't find it. So I gave up. I can't take watching his content anymore for now. So here's another video by some guy, and it's going to show you some ringing rocks. So have a watch.
So here we have a very special stone here in front of the pyramids of Sahur in Abu Zir. When you tap any stone here, you'll just get a normal sound, normal stone. But this stone here, doesn't it sound like a bell?
It sure does sound like a bell. It sure does. And that's very, very important. So these ringing rocks are one part that we're going to use to construct the system of this pyramid. Okay, so keep the ringing rocks in mind, and let's move on to the next piece. So they went inside one of the pyramids. I don't know which one it is. They all do a little bit different thing, but I think this is basically what they're doing. Okay, so I went into one of these pyramids and they find this, they got to go in through this chamber, and he's going to explain how there's red granite stones in this chamber. Okay. And then they lead up to this great big booming chamber. All right. So to understand this, I wrote this into a paper, but I understand not everybody wants to read a freaking paper. So I'm just going to say this the way that I thought it. Okay. So I play the tuba. All right. We don't use mutes, but trumpet players and trombone players, they use mutes, and the mute goes in the bell of your horn and it changes the timbre or the sound that your horn makes. Okay. So these rocks, when they're rung, they ring at a certain pitch, and this pitch is going to travel down this chamber. Every time the sound hits the next rock, it's going to do two things. It's going to ring the rock, but that sound is going to echo in the chamber. Okay. Now, if there's a pulse and the rock rings and then you get an echo, and then when the echo gets back to the rock, you ring again. Okay, so the echo and the ring go off at the same time. Now you have a feedback system, okay, like a feedback loop with your microphone. When the sound is playing into itself, you get this exponential increase in energy, and you get this screeching across the microphone. That's the same effect they're taking advantage of with these chambers. You clap, the sound echoes, and as soon as you hear the echo, you clap at the same time. Clap, echo, 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 echo. And you just get this runaway increase in sound as long as you're within this sealed up chamber, so the echoes stay inside. All right, so we're gonna ring this rock. The rock is going to echo in the chamber, and we're going to set up a pulse so that this thing just starts really, really shaking. Okay, so let's watch his video.
Huge slabs of red granite that were housed in these three niches. So this part was inaccessible. All right, so here you can literally see this is the hieroglyphs, right?
Yeah.
They're all over the chamber.
Yeah.
But to me, it really looks like these are plastered on. You can see
Right,
where
right.
the plaster
Yeah.
is coming over here.
Just for the record, I think this is a forgery. And, you know, think about it what you will, but I think that they plastered over this and stamped that stuff on there to cover up what this thing is really for, and you'll see what I mean in a minute.
Again, I don't think that's part of the original limestone.
Oh, you think they covered it up with this hieroglyphs on it?
Well, it was inherited by the dynastic Egyptians
Right.
who added the hieroglyphs in plaster. You
Uh-huh.
can see here, this material here continues over here.
Yes.
This is where the stone starts.
Okay, so you see there's this booming chamber. All right, now keep the booming chamber in mind, and we're going to move on to the next thing, okay? The next thing is glowing rocks. Now, when I say glowing rocks, I actually mean something very specific, okay? And I can demonstrate this to you. So, if you take crystals that are high in silica, okay, like a quartz stone, like this one. This rock is nothing special. It's just some quartzy stone I found out in a river, and it was part of my rock collection, and I hit it with the laser when I was testing everything, and it just so happened to do this, okay? So when I take the rock and I shine the light on it, it glows vigorously. But not only does it glow, I don't know if I can get it on the camera, but it pixelates. And what I mean by this is exactly what it sounds like. This rock has dark and light spots in it that I can control the brightness of by turning my laser, okay? And the polarity of my laser changes how bright it is. And man, when it's bright and when at a certain angle, you can really see this thing glitter. And it doesn't just glitter, it glitters in such a way where if I sit back like this and I don't move the stone, but I move my head, I can see the glitter move within the rock. Okay, the rock's not moving, my head is, and I can see the glitter in the rock moving like a hologram. Okay, this is very important. All right, if this stone can glow with the light when I add it artificially, that means we can make it glow by stimulating it with sound. All right, just like sonoluminescence, except we're going to do it in these rocks. Well, they found these glowing stones not just anywhere. No, they found these rocks surrounding a black casket, okay, covered in engravings, which are going to change the light form that comes off of this wall. Okay, so watch this.
So it's two completely different techniques that were used to do the shadow figure.
Yeah.
And that were used to do this.
That's incredible.
So this is a material called black greyweck. You'll notice that the inside of the container is not finished, but the exterior of the container is finished with exceptional precision. I mean, just look at how...
Yeah, even at an extreme light angle.
Yeah,
right?
it's like a marble countertop.
Yeah.
And again, this is a huge slab
Oh, so
underneath the
Yeah.
floor here. Yeah.
That right there is the same thing I just showed you with my little quartz rock, except inside a pyramid. And that is not by accident, okay? Notice also the black casket. We're going to get to that in a second, but watch for just one more second and so that I can show when he puts this thing to the wall, it glows in one spot and it doesn't glow in another. Now, maybe the writing is there for a purpose, and I could dream one up where it's not actually a forgery. But to me, that plastered part that does not glow screams forgery. Okay? It just, as part of the electrical system, there's no reason why you would cover that part of just that piece of the wall with this shitty plaster with the worst writing of everything we've seen so far. Okay? So don't focus on that, okay? Just focus on the fact that he puts this thing on the ground and he's about to put it against the wall, which means that all the walls are all going to glow if we shake this room with sound hard enough. Sound that we're going to generate with those ringing rocks by pounding on them, okay? So.
Yeah.
look at that. Wow. It's like a sunset.
Yeah.
So it's just like this section.
Yeah.
Specifically.
Yeah, the back third of the chamber, the floor underneath this thing. And if you sneak back behind there, if you can squeeze back behind there, I'll show you something that we can talk about when we get on the outside. Okay, so now look at the wall. A slab of limestone. I mean, calcite crystal.
Calcite.
Yeah, alabaster.
Yeah. Wow.
You see the
and then the difference
between
there.
the limestone
See?
and the calcite crystal.
Wow.
Mafish Noah? He's going to show us. Okay. What about your flashlight? This one's better. Yes, I know. All right. So he's going to show you.
Okay?
Yeah.
No statue, okay?
Yeah.
I know, okay? I see.
Okay.
Okay, jokes aside, that is really spooky, okay? Because these walls are going to glow, okay? And that means that all of these little depressions and shapes on it are going to shape the waveform of the light that comes off of this wall, okay? Now, I think that this whole chamber probably glowed and they've plastered over it, but so let's talk next about the box, okay? So let's recap where we are so far. We've got rocks that ring, okay, and a chamber with all walls that glow when you press a light flush against them, which means that we can probably shake them into light with the sound that we're generating with the stones. Okay, so within this glowing chamber, now let's imagine that this thing is working, okay? So the rocks are being pulsed and this chamber is filled with this pulsing sound, okay? And now the walls are glowing like we saw when you put the flashlight against it. They're actually producing this light because of the sound. And when they do, they're pushing it through this diffraction grating like a double slit experiment, and that's changing the waveform of the sound in the room, okay? Now, this whole thing is about very precisely changing the waveform in each chamber as you go through the system step by step. So you ring a rock here, it travels into a chamber, and it rings the next rock, which travels into a chamber and rings the next rock. And these chambers are progressively different sizes. When you change the sound, when you change the shape of the chamber, you change the resonance frequency of the chamber, which means you're changing the waveform of the sound with each cavity, okay? It's the shape and the area of the cavity that changes the waveform, okay? They're using a physical fix to solve this waveform problem by changing the geometry of these seemingly empty chambers. They're not empty though, remember, they're going to be filled with this sound, and we're going to shape it progressively, okay? The sound has made it into the room, and now these walls are glowing, and the glowing is glowing a certain way because we shaped the waveform of the sound a particular way. Now the rocks glow, we're going to change the waveform of the light coming out of the rocks by passing it through a diffraction grating, which is the face of the wall of the rock face, okay? That's what all of these engravings are. And I'm just going to leave that spooky carving alone for now because this video is already getting sort of long, okay? So now, this room is full of this very precisely tuned sound and this very precisely tuned bright orange or white-ish light, okay? And there's a box anchored to the floor on the freaking bedrock, basically. So you can imagine this coffin is basically attached to the bedrock of the earth. It's plugged into the earth, you could say, in a way. Okay? Now, the box is empty. But remember, this is all about cavities, right? So this black stone has two purposes, all right? It's going to leak some energy into the interior of the box. And that means that it's going to be the final waveform transformation in this whole entire process. And the brighter that the light is in this chamber, the darker that the shadow in the box is, okay? So this room is rumbling and is super bright, but the stone is completely stationary with the earth. Okay, it's not moving at all, and it's black. Okay, and a little bit of this energy is going to seep through it, and that's going to transform this waveform inside of this box. Now, what it does past that can get super esoteric and weird, and a lot of people just careen down this path of like we're resurrecting people and stuff. I don't freaking know. Okay, I don't know anything about all that. All I know is, as far as an electrical system, there is a super duper weird energy inside that box because it's been filtered multiple times through these resonating chambers, and it's having just some of this super intense light leak into this box, which actually has a super dark shadow in it. And what's left in there is just this black, cold energy in this room of amazing, like super high powered, bright, vibrating light. So the darker the light or energy, the blacker the shadow, and we've got just a box full of some really weird energy. Okay, so this is just one thing we can be doing with the pyramid. Okay, electrochemistry is big. Jeffrey Drum is probably right. We are making ammonia and everything it would take to run this civilization, but there's a cold hard fact that there are machine marks from tools that are enormous. And by enormous, I mean that there are saw blade marks for 30-foot saws. Now, you don't turn a 30-foot saw that's this thick, okay? You don't spin that with anything other than electricity. Electricity is the only thing that can spin a saw like that, and the marks are all over the stones on the outside of the Great Pyramid. So, that means that out there, we have to have electricity that's, pumping. And with this whole pyramid shaking, what you're going to end up doing is you're going to make this great big static electric field around the pyramid, just like an electric that'll raise the hair off your arm, okay? The whole pyramid is a sonically powered electric, okay? Now, they were doing lots of things with this power, and, Jeffrey Drum can tell you all about those things. That's not what I'm here for, okay? I'm here for how did they power all of this? Because to have this happen, you have to have static electricity, okay? So let me prove my point to you.
Stuff is iron oxide. So this is the location where a sample was taken, where the first silicate microsphere was.
Silicate microspheres. Remember, my rock was silicon because it was, quartz. Those spheres can only be made one way, and we'll go over that at the end.
Was discovered from a fulgurite. So again, fulgurites are called fossilized lightning, where high voltage electricity from a lightning strike hits the ground. It fuses the materials together and creates these little, basically like branch-like formations that are fused particles of silica and whatever else the bedrock material is made out of. And it creates these little tiny microscopic spherules of silica.
Since we're here, I'm just going to say it. So those microspherules can only be made in a giant blast. So that's evidence that something went wrong in this power plant, and this thing freaking exploded, and the marks are everywhere. I mean, everything is destroyed. It's totally obvious that somewhere in the past, this static electric generating facility, something really went wrong. Okay, so I screwed up and I lost my bookmark for the pyramid part where it's leading away. Give me 1 second here. Hang on.
which is the area that has the highest concentration of saw blade cuts all through this area. But this is also where things start to get very, very weird and immediately contradict the conventional main network, and it connects all of the structures on the Giza Plateau.
Okay, so all of these branches of fulgurite all lead away from the eastern edge of the pyramid, okay? And that's very important, all right? Because the inside of this pyramid would have been ringing and doing all kinds of crazy things inside, okay? And let's just go with what they told us, all right? This thing is a bunch of ringing rocks, all enclosed in these white limestone casing stones, okay? And then a gold capstone on the top. Now, there is a gradient, an electrical gradient in the earth that goes from 0 kilovolts at the ground and 300 kilovolts at space, and it goes slowly up between them. That means if you put this pyramid that's got a peak way up here and a base way down here that's wide, focuses all of this gradient up to the top, just like my cone magnets, okay? Cone magnets act the same way, except with this, it's not a magnet, it's an electret, all right? And there's a gold capstone up there that's moving with the earth, okay? And this gold capstone moving with the earth would have been generating electricity, which would have been pumped down to the bottom. And I think this is what the sockle is for, is because with my magnet, if this were the pyramid, you wouldn't want to lay the pyramid right on the ground if you wanted to harvest the energy coming off the magnet. You'd have to put it on something so it's a little bit higher, because the field comes down like this, around the magnet like this. So it comes under a little ways that we have to account for. So you want to set it up a little ways so you can harvest what comes off the bottom. And what's going to come off the bottom is a whole bunch of electricity, which is shown right here in all of these fulgurites and stuff leading away from the eastern edge of the pyramid. Now, why? Why the eastern edge? Why is that important? Because remember, I said this is an electrical system. Okay, so I'm going to try and do another demonstration, and I'm going to show you how this would work. So hold on one second. So here's my plasma globe. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this or not. But when I move it like this, the arms spin with the rotation. So I rotate this way, the arms rotate with me, okay? And this is the same thing on the Earth. Imagine that the pyramid is on top of the electrode in the middle of there. When I spin it this way, okay, what happens is I get a couple spins in, and then everything starts moving this way, as you can see maybe. And that's what the Earth is always doing, because the Earth is always slowly rotating like this. And the pyramid is kind of up away from the electrode, and so all of that energy is going to spill down like you see in that video and fall away from the pyramid with the direction of the spin. And that's why it comes off the eastern side, because the sun rises in the east because we turn this way, okay? And so it's going with the spin. All right, so on top of this pyramid, you're going to have lightning bolts and all kinds of static electricity that you're going to have to deal with. And you can see that they were dealing with it. Well, I lost the clip now, but there's these black stones outside that are part of the temple outside. Well, yeah, you're going to need a temple out there. And if you don't believe that electricity might be God, go ahead and walk into the electrical room at your local business and see how fast there's somebody there to stop you from toying with the local temple. Because you're going to need somewhere where the fuse breakers are. Because the thing blew up at some point, as we saw with the silica beads that are around. And so, you know, they had to have, you know, had a circuit breaker board. I mean, basically that's what those black slabs outside are, the parts where you can stand and you can work. And this is also why you have to have a giant underground facility to work at this place. There has to be more hidden under the ground, because if you really wanted to work here and harvest the stuff inside of it, the only way you're really getting in is if you go in underground far away. You're going to have to come where the field isn't out here and come underground and then tunnel up into the opening at the bottom. And then you can get in and access whatever you might need to access once it's safe or de-energized, or maybe, you know, there's chambers built in there for maintenance. Who knows? We haven't explored the whole thing. So that's my entire presentation. Pretty much everything I know about the pyramid. I know this probably needs cleaned up and stuff, but I'm just going to post it and see what you guys think about it. Be a free thinker.